Good evening, everyone. It's Flex and Joe. I'm back with another trade recap and review. Today, we're going to be discussing Tesla puts from Friday, April 5th. So, I had some crazy Tesla puts that were 0 DTEs that went, to a maximum final scale of 2,000%, but then also evaporated pretty quickly, as you'll see. So, first, let's get into the trade and what was the setup. Starting on the hourly time frame, which is a time frame that I've been using a little bit more to try to maintain a higher time frame perspective, a more zoomed out perspective on what is a stock or what is the market doing in the big picture, right? So looking at the big picture of Tesla, right? Tuesday was a big move down. Wednesday was a slow kind of grinder, big pop, and then grinder up into close. And then Thursday, big pop, and then ultimately gave back most of it, right? More than 2/3 or so of this day was a move back down into the close here at 4 p.m. Now looking at the overnight action, right? It tried to hold this hourly 20 EMA, your thin red line here. It pivoted here, it moved up into VWAP, and the next morning, your pre-market high, it just starts to fade off, and then at 8 a.m. you get a close back down under all the hourly EMAs, right? So, what I've learned, one of the things that I've learned from Maple Stacks, my mentor and friend, is that you don't buy the break, you want to buy the base, the retest, right? So I'll be looking for it to retest these hourly EMAs around this 171 area. And also I've learned that not to really like this sell-off here into the open, as it's frequently is advertisement. So this is your 8 a.m. candle, right? This is your 9 a.m. candle, which encompasses the open. So let's go to the 30-minute time frame. So looking at the 30-minute time frame, one of the things that I like to do when we get the open is here's your 9 a.m. candle, right? Closes down here, and then we get the open at 9:30. I like to mark the close of the prior day to the open of today, mark a fib, and then since we have a gap down, I'm looking to see, is this golden zone of the gap gonna hold, as well as those EMAs when they come pushing down here on that 30-minute time frame, right? So this sell-off into the open, as Maple Stacks has taught, is it's frequently is kind of bad advertising, right? Can lure in some eager traders for the quick short, right? Now look, obviously we went down, right? But then it reversed and it came back up, and it ultimately closes higher than the open in the first 30 minutes. Now this shaded area is your opening range, your orb, right? Your 30-minute orb setup. And then what you see on the 30-minute time frame is it tries to break out. It rejects that pivot low. It rejects over this golden zone. It rejects the EMAs. And it doesn't quite push up to the previous day's close. So it doesn't quite close that gap, if you will. And then, you get some chop, but it's still not closing above the orb. And then that's the big move that I traded. So don't want to get ahead of myself here. Let's just zoom out. Zoom in a little bit further into the 10-minute time frame, right? So on the 10-minute, here's where we opened. You see me move down, right? When we moved down, we broke the prior day's low. We wick below it, we push a little lower, and then ultimately we flip and we go back up. Now we're rejecting this golden zone, and they're holding, this price range, this pivot area here. They're holding that overnight pivot low, etc. And what they look like they're really doing on that higher time frame, on that hourly time frame, is just price is just gliding into that hourly EMA before it looks like it's going to spill off. All right, so this is the 10-minute time frame. I want to show you guys the same thing here on the 5. You can see this orange dashed line is your orb high. We break above it, we instantly flip back down. This is a good long setup, yes, right? But you have to remember what the higher time frame is showing you. The higher time frame is flipped bearish, right? Your EMAs are now pointing down. Your 9 is under your 20. So this is a bearish setup, a bearish formation on the hourly. So while these tweezers here, this candle setup basing on VWAP, these are potentially viable long setups. They're going to be short-lived because you are pushing into that higher time frame resistance. You see here, push, flips, comes back down. Here, push, flips, starts to come back down. So as I see this here on the lower time frame, and again, you go back to that hourly, right? I'm watching the hourly time frame. This is the 9 a.m. candle, right? So 9 to 10, This is your 10 to 11, right? And there's your big move down that I traded, right? So then 10 to 11, right, if we zoom really close in here, what we see is this respect to the 9 EMA and the 20 EMA above it, right? And we look like we flipped under. This is your higher time frame cloud here, 3450. Everything's crossing. This is a nice bearish cross, and this is what they're holding. So at the start of the next hourly candle, when they push up into it and then they just flip, that's exactly what I'm looking to trade for the bigger move. Whereas this is just a pullback on the higher time frame. All right, so going down to the 5 minute, right, which is where I executed this trade off of. You see that we break above the orb and we come back down. We're riding into this EMAs, and then we start closing even below these lower time frame EMAs, which is really the signal that this is, this move isn't going to work. The higher time frame is all lined up. Everything is working. You're holding that pivot. So I grabbed the puts actually on this candle here, right when we broke back down under the orb again. We pushed back up. This is where I was like, okay, like this move isn't working. The high here is holding. We tried to make a higher high, instantly brought it back down, and then this candle's inside here. I have a feeling we're going to test lower. This is where I'm going to try it. Okay, so grab those puts, and then instantly on the next 5 minute candle, my initial first scale went off, and then I just, you'll see on the options contract chart, just like started scaling more contracts out, because this was a much more dramatic move than I was expecting. Now, the price action preceded the news, but apparently there was a false news bulletin from Reuters about Tesla canceling one of its smaller models or whatever, and there was a huge sell-off, right, on huge volume. So scaled out. Again, you get another enormous candle, and this is where these contracts really start going crazy. Now, if I go back to the higher time frame, what I want to show, what I want to show here, I'll show it on the 30 minute, is that earlier in the week, especially Monday, I was looking for us to make a move down in this area. And the reason that I was looking for a move into this area is that first off, it was a almost double bottom here from March 14th. But then also, if we zoom out even further to the daily time frame, you'll see right here that we have a gap from earnings, a gap that has not been filled, right? So we closed here, we opened here, we did come down some, right, about a third of the way down, and we pushed off from there. And we almost tested that golden zone of that gap. So this gap remains, in terms of completely filled, it is not filled. And I'm looking to see, because we had this big move, right, because we came down, tested it, and then multiple times based off of the top of this gap, and we would not push price lower. I was looking to see if we were going to get a test of that same area, right? So if you look at what I did, and of course on the daily it's not showing the circle like exactly so, but when we get back down to the lower time frames, you'll see that this is exactly where I was looking for us to go, and the circle looks quite big here on the 5 minute time frame. But then within these puts, right, like I get out of the puts position completely here. I'm happy to just lock in that 2,000%. Like, this is way bigger of a trade than I was expecting. I wanted to see us come down here, but I wasn't that confident that we were going to get a $10 move on Friday with Tesla, right? So then, of course, Elon puts out a tweet. We literally tap that. Elon puts out a tweet that news is false, and this position reverses almost immediately. Like, this 5 minute candle is like $7.50, right? So $7.31. So completely reverses the position, right? So looking at the options contract chart, you'll see my entry, not the best. I feel as if I was a bit eager for this move. I was like stalking this setup, and I think one thing that sort of plays into it here is legitimately, I've had some struggles with Tesla this year. I've had like this kind of ping pong ball of, she gives me money, she takes my money, she gives me money, she takes my money. You guys know the struggle, right? So I was just like, kind of more or less, for lack of a better expression, licking my chops here. And I was like, okay, like, I know there's a move coming here, and I want to get into this, and I think this is going to play out pretty well. That first scale that I had here You know, it was already just like on the books, and I wanted to, you know, scale a little bit above this pivot, and I just was like, okay, I'm looking at the 5-minute time frame, looking at the 10-minute time frame. I was also looking at the first 5-minute candle and just trying to like judge like, where is this going to potentially pop to? And I just like picked a spot that I felt like was relatively safe. So that first scale like went off, and it went off really fast. And so when I heard it, and then I flipped back to the Tesla chart because I was live on stream and was looking at multiple different tickers. When I heard it and I flipped back to the Tesla chart, I saw that it was moving up, and I was just like, oh damn. So like we're almost at the high here. Like I just clicked and just started scaling out. So this was a half of my position here, just like set to lock in, right? Because I mean, look, this is more than doubling my money. So great first scale. I'm like, oh damn, I'm gonna double my money here on this one. And from there, I just like kept scaling out, right? So you see I scale here, I only have 2 left, and I scale one more out here at 501 is what it actually filled me at. I think it's just because it just like whipped up real fast and went through my order and gave me a little bit of a better fill. I was originally at $5. So I got an extra penny on that one. Thank you TOS. And then I saw that it moved up here, and I saw that I had like a 2,000% trade. And I was like, dang, like that's pretty crazy. And it moved back down quite a bit, and I was like, well, it's one con, you know what I mean? At this point, like con is like way free, you know? I wouldn't let it go back down to my entry, but I was like, geez, like what am I gonna do? I thought about it, and one thing that a lot of traders struggle with, I know, is like that whole greed factor. And obviously I had locked in a really good scale here, but I kind of was like, I want that 2,000%, you know? So I set the scale order, it hit. Now, of course, when it hit and I looked back at, you know, a minute or so later, I'm like, man, these are up and over another $100 from where I sold. Like, it's only one contract, it's just $100. But I was like, oh man, like, how far is this really gonna go? And I saw that red target coming, and it literally, as I illustrated here, like it literally just taps this red target and just rockets like right away from it. So, you know, when I see this candle, I'm like, dang, like how much further is it really going to go? Is it going to just knife through this target? Like what's going on here? Because as you can see, crazy volume, right? But then once it taps it and that volume comes in the other way, when Elon says, hey, that was false, I was glad. So in the end, I was glad that I took the scale where I did, because, you know, you can't catch the top, you can't catch the bottom. I feel as if I did pretty good job here defining my risk, you know, about 30-ish%, yes, but you know, it's a 0 day, I know it can move fast, and I wanted to see the candles close and what we were doing. But you know, from here to here, even on that one contract, it was pretty crazy, and the majority of the position, you know, was locked in at a pretty green trade. So I'm very happy with it. But in the review, one key takeaway, right, is I still need to make sure that I'm doing a good job getting a good quality entry that reduces my risk. Again, a little bit overzealous. I see that here now on my fill, so I can work on that. But also in the review is more confirmation that looking at the higher time frame for the setup and aligning it with the lower time frame is in my best interest, right? Specifically that hourly time frame, and then as well as this 10-minute time frame, right? So pretty common to see this sort of price action here on the 10-minute, where it moves down, right? It pulls back into this 3450 EMA cloud, this higher time frame cloud, and then it moves away from it again. And ultimately really want to see this low get broken, and that's exactly what happened. So in all actuality, unloading the majority of the position here at this 30-minute orb low break, new low of day, is exactly what to do. Because I don't know how much it's going to keep going. I don't know, you know, if it's going to pull back and against me in reverse, but this is the key place to get out most of the position, and that's exactly what I did. So the scaling was pretty good, and overall, I'm very pleased with this trade. It was a great way to end the week on my options. So if you have any questions or would like any further clarification, please hit me up down below, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.